don't vie.
Don't vie for
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, Honorable Nyamoya.
What I'm saying is that it's wrong for members of parliament to actually increase their salary on their own. In Uganda, the courts have made a ruling that the MPs have no right. They are using the same system like Kenya. And I'm happy the CRC has gone to court and they will give a ruling so that it helps us. Sometimes when people go to court, we get a better law. The ruling will become a better law to govern us.
But sometimes court orders are just papers, according to Mheshimiwa Kimunya at some point.
How do we deal with that bad manners? Because the truth of the matter is we are seated here with two former members of parliament.
Three.
Three actually. Yes, sorry, I beg your pardon. 3 members of parliament. And when you're on the other side, it passes overwhelmingly. There is never rejection. But now here you are on this side saying sometimes Kenyans feel like you're being hypocritical. Honorable Kirwa.
Well, let's start with the trip. Trips are useful for members of parliament to benchmark, but the trips must be properly organized. 85, first of all, creates a national security risk. If anything happened to 85 members of parliament at one go, that is almost a national disaster. Number two, during our time, I remember I led 2 delegations, one about the House business being covered live. And we went to a number of countries, South Africa, Uganda, and Britain. But it was a small committee of 13 members. I also led a delegation in 1993 of 14 members of parliament to America to study their committee system, where issues are deliberated at the committee before they are brought to the plenary. So it's so far so good. I would have expected that if that meeting was so important, they would have had a committee of around 15 members or even 10 members from various committees, now led by one of the, they have something like a liaison committee to lead that delegation, then bring the report to parliament and have it discussed. Now, as to whether that money was there for purposes of the trip, that is okay. But those trips should also be targeting effective meetings that when members come, there is some value added. But just making a trip abroad because there is money, that is the height of irresponsibility.
What's the process of having 85 people approved to go for that trip? Because my imagination is that there has to be a process for that money to be availed, for them to approve and have that accepted. So that by the time the trip is coming, it is, the money is availed and it's there.
Well, it's the Speaker actually who ultimately has to approve these committees. I remember Speaker Ole Kabaro is the one who picked me as the chair of the committee that went to the US in 1993. The other one also the House can approve, because the motion I had brought in 1990 was to ask for live coverage of proceedings of Parliament, and the committee was formed. Upon formation of that committee, now we are to benchmark to see how do we open up without opening too much to the public, given it was a new system.
The honest truth about these trips is nothing else. It is to receive money in allowances. Yes, that is the honest truth.
And that's
you challenged us that we are sitting here and we seem to be speaking from the other side now. I want to tell you, when I was in parliament, I did not make any trip. Any trip. The only trip I ever made for those 8 years I was in parliament was one to Tanzania for a golf tournament where we got 62,000 shillings. And since I could not get receipts in Tanzania, I had to pay back 50,000 shillings out of
that money.
So I spent 12,000 in 8 years.
In 8 years.
Yes.
Honorable Nyamoya, what would you say to those?
And again, benchmarking with 85 MPs. Why can't we spend the allowances of 3 MPs and we bring in those guys from America here, and they stay here on our account until they train us and we exchange ideas with them? We don't have to send 85
people to the US.
Honestly
Honorable Nyamoya, do you agree that, first of all, just so that Kenyans can, accept whether we are accountable or not, do you agree that those benchmarking trips are purely per diem earning machines, other than...
The first point is, I don't believe that actually there are 85. Indeed, if there are 85, there's a problem we have. MPs, if indeed it's true, 85 MPs are leaving to go to America, then there's a problem we have. We have a problem with the Speaker. If there are both of them, we have a problem with them. Because there's no way you can take 85 members of parliament for a foreign trip. to travel to where? I mean, what are they going to bring to us? Because if you are taking people, you take a few members from the committee. When they come, they share the information with us. This is what we found. This is how we can improve. But again, I've been those trips. Actually, what you see when you come back, nothing is implemented. It is a wastage of funds.
So you agree with Honorable Kavogo?
Yeah,
it's really just
if you look at page 8 of the Standard today, where it says MPs want journalists kicked out of Parliament, the main reason is because journalists are writing about the greed
that is in Parliament. And
I'm happy with Mheshimiwa Cheboy, who is the Deputy Speaker, who says that that is not the route we want to take. Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga, on the same article, he says it is shameful for Parliament to send 85. What I would want to tell Mheshimiwa Odinga, he is the leader of ODM. Are there party members of ODM who are in this trip? And if they are, he knows as a leader of a party that he has room to move and do disciplinary measures to make sure that ODM is not involved in siphoning public funds.
All right, gentlemen, one of the things that we need to do is maybe just give a roadmap, way forward. Because at the end of the day, here is the money being spent. Kenyans are going to complain. We'll go on Twitter. We will, like keyboard warriors and make noise. But then at the end of the day, we still go back to our cocoons and it continues. Honorable Kira, what do you see as a solution? Is it a problem that we have with our leadership? Is it that our leadership, and here by leadership I mean right from the from the executive to National Assembly to Senate, we have a problem of greed, to call it as it is?
Yeah, well, I do not want to disagree totally with my colleagues that this could be wastage of resources, but also benchmarking abroad is not an exercise in futility. I told you of the two committees that are operating today is a product of benchmarking in various countries of the world. But given the fact that also people have certain excessive bad behavior, you would expect the leadership of the National Assembly and the Senate to rein in bad manners. Number three, until the people of Kenya take to account their leaders, will be doing this, and those who will go back to the people may be elected not on the basis of their own personal integrity, personal exemplary leadership, but because of other factors other than the things that we know. So unless we change the public, the Kenya public, to look at their leaders more critically, this is likely to pervade the atmosphere of politics for many years to come. We've talked about changing the Constitution. The Constitution does not reflect the thinking of the people. And if the people still move in a certain opposite direction, it is not going to solve a problem. I've always talked about what we call formal institutions and non-formal institutions. Formal institutions are institutions and laws that are made and put in statutes. Informal is the behavior of the people of Kenya. He comes from another, I come from one community, he comes from another community, Mheshimiwa Kabogo comes from a third community. If the thinking of your own community is still that you can still steal and you are a hero, at the end of the day, no law is going to